Well, just a quick recap of the SC game. I think pretty disappointed that we couldn't overcome the deficit that we put ourselves into there in the second half. We had some real opportunities. I think our defense, in the final 5 possessions that SC had the ball, 4 of them were 3 and outs. The other one was a blocked field goal. We moved the ball and gave ourselves some opportunities to score points. Unfortunately, didn't capitalize. You know, with the missed field goal there late into the third, the fumble inside the 5 there early in the fourth, and then the other fumble or I believe interception, excuse me, with about 4.5 minutes to go in the ball game. So that part was disappointing. What was encouraging was our ability to fight in the second half, to understand the challenges that were presented to us, to make some subtle adjustments within the game plan and get those things fixed, and compete. You know, but again, when you have 4 turnovers and a block punt, it's hard to beat good teams. But what it does tell me is that we have a great deal of fight, that we're willing to adjust. I would say, as far as the way Keith played in the game, I thought there was a lot of old Keith Price that showed up, which was encouraging. Some of the playmaking ability, the avoiding of the rush, extending plays, getting the ball down the field, utilizing his legs. Unfortunately, the ball security issue is something that needs to be addressed and will be addressed. But you know, through it all, we're halfway through the season. We're a 3-3 football team. It's, as we consider this is halftime, and we've got to come out and play the second half of football with a real sense of urgency, a real focused mindset on the task at hand that lie in front of us. And I'm confident that we can do that, and I believe we can do that, from the coaching staff to the players to our team leaders. I think this football team has matured gradually throughout the season. I saw that again last week, that's what the signs are pointing to. And we had good meetings last night, and I'm confident in the fact that we're going to come out and play a good football game at Arizona, and we'll see if that's good enough to win.
All right, questions?
Sark, how come that sense of urgency seemed to be missing at the start of this game and maybe the last one as well?
Yeah, you know, we talked about that, Bob, last night as a team. We, you know, why do we have to spot our opponents? 21 2 weeks ago, 10 last week. And really early on in those games, in my opinion, when I'm analyzing and going back and looking at those sequencing of plays, and whether it's a drop punt, whether it's a misread by the quarterback, whether it's a blown coverage in the secondary, whether it's the first play of the game against SC, we've got the run bottled up in the backfield, and our safety just doesn't fit it quite as quickly as he does later in the game. To me, you know, maybe we're a bit too emotional. Maybe we're concerned about some things outside of us and not really focused on the task at hand, and that's that play. And so we addressed it last night, and I'm going to continually address it here this week about really focused on what's right in front of us and not worried about what's down the road, not worried about maybe the crowd or other issues or the scoreboard, and just playing that snap to the best of our ability, all 11 guys that are on the field, and see if we can start that engine, that motor sooner in the game. And so it'll be addressed for sure, because you know, it's hard. I don't care how good you are. It's hard to come back against really good teams like that when you spot them points early in the game. And so it'd be nice to come out and execute right from the beginning and playing with a real sense of urgency and a real detailed game, focused game that I think we're capable of doing. We just need to address it.
Steve, Keith is pretty hard on himself with us. I don't know how it's with you, but as a former quarterback and knowing who's your leader, how do you get him even field, or how do you like that about how genuine he is?
Oh, I love that about him. I think that's a sign of a great teammate and a great leader, of a quarterback that has high demands for himself, but also, you know, is understanding the position that he's in. And you know, some of that, of what he gives himself, is probably warranted, and some of it isn't. But you know, at the end of the day, he's the guy that's gonna take the blame when things don't go great, and he's the guy that's gonna give praise to others when things do go well. And I think that's a sign of a very good leader.
Do you worry that much pressure put on himself by himself can become debilitating at some point, or
I don't
hurt
think
his
so.
psyche?
I don't think so. He's a confident kid, you know, and he did a lot of really good stuff the other night. It's unfortunate some of the plays that stand out in all of our minds are the glaring mistakes, but he did a lot of really good stuff for us that gave us a chance in that game to be successful. Now, the ball security issue when he's running with the football is something that has to be addressed. There's no doubt. This is 2 consecutive weeks now where he's made really nice runs to get down the field, and then the balls come out. And again, I don't want to take his stinger from him because that's part of his game, and that's the part that we've all grown to love from Keith. But the ball security issue when contact is near has to be addressed. You know, the first interception is a heck of a play by their guy. I mean, Deion Bailey's an all-conference linebacker, and he makes a tremendous play. And the next interception is a ball that he's throwing to Cody Bruns, and Austin's trying to make a play for him and tips the ball, and they intercept it. So some of that stuff comes with the territory of playing quarterback, that you have to deal with some of the unforeseen circumstances, and others you have to own up to and take. And so I think he's on the right path to getting back to playing the type of football that he's capable of playing and that we're capable of playing around him. And I think he's only going to get better this Saturday at Arizona.
Was his increase in scrambling something that you guys discussed prior, or just something natural from that game?
Part of it was, you know, playing the game the way he likes to play the game and not try to be something that he's not. He's a very creative quarterback, if you want to use that term, where he can create plays for our offense by using his legs. Sometimes it's outside of the pocket making throws down the field. Other times it's generating 7, 8, 9 yard gains running the football. What he just has to understand is the decision to get down. And he did that at times in the game where he ran for 6 or 7 yards, got down, and we were in 2nd and 3 football, which is great. He also took a couple shots that he didn't need to take when he was running the football out of the pocket. So it might be a bit of trying too hard, of wanting to make a play, which sometimes competitors can do that. So we'll find that happy medium for him, and he will too. And I think after looking at the film, there's some stuff in there where he goes, shoot, I wish I would have done this or would have done that. But through it all, it's not as if he's pointing the finger. It's not as if he's just down in the dumps and doesn't believe in himself. He knows he's a good football player, and we're going to be a good offensive football team, I think, sooner rather than later.
Coach, getting back to Bob, your answer to Bob's question about distractions, how does the team not have full attention with USC?
Well, I think you know, Art, that maybe you have too much attention. You know, maybe you're too wired into everything, and not really just the fact that this is the call that coach is calling for me, whatever position I play. This is my responsibility on this play. This is the formation or the defense or whatever that our opponent has come out in, regardless of what uniform they're wearing. And this is my job to do on this snap. And when that play's done, I clear my mind and I reload and I go do it again on the next snap, and not get caught up in who we're playing against across, what uniform they're wearing, or what number the guy is that's wearing across from me, or what the score is on the scoreboard. And I think when we can get ourselves into that mindset, we'll be a lot better off for ourselves of just doing our job on that next snap and focusing on that task, which is the next 6 seconds. And then when that 6 seconds is done, reloading, clearing my mind, wiping the slate clean about what just happened, what might occur 2 quarters from now, and really what lies directly in front of me.
As you look at this team at the halfway point, are there a couple things you feel really good about going forward, and then maybe a thing or two that you feel like we really got to get?
Yeah, I think that our defense is continually encouraging to me. I think that we've played a variety of offensive football teams here early on in the season, and I think that we're showing the capability to improve, especially in the back end, which has been encouraging. I was encouraged by Josh Shirley's sack again last week, of showing that when we needed a pass rush, you were able to generate that. I've been encouraged by our kickoff return team. we're close. We're close on a lot of them to break some real big ones. We just are a block away or a tackle away every time, but that's been encouraging. Our kickoff coverage unit has been very encouraging to me from where we've been to where we are now, going against some very elite kickoff returners the last 2 weeks in DeAnthony Thomas and Marquise Lee to do what we've done there. Obviously, when you get a punt block, that's a bit concerning because we've been good there, and when you drop a punt and you give up a touchdown off of it, that's concerning. But I think we've improved in those areas. On offense, the running game is still a bit spotty against really good teams, and so I'm trying to gauge exactly where we are as an offensive football team based on the opponents we've faced. And so sometimes, I'm trying not to just look at the sheer numbers, but rather how are we doing against really top flight opponents. When you look at SC, Oregon, Stanford, and then going all the way back to LSU, what do we look like against really good guys that are very well coached? And so the running game is probably a bit more encouraging to me than maybe our numbers give us credit for, because we've gone against some very good fronts, and I think Bishop's improving as a runner. I think Kendall's finding his groove there. I've been encouraged by what Cason Williams has brought to our offense. I wish we could have found him a few more times and given him a few more opportunities last Saturday, but he's been a real bright spot the first half of the season. I think the playmaking ability of what Austin's given us here with almost 30 catches through 6 games has been encouraging to me as well. I wish we were a little better up front than we are right now, but I think we're improving. I'd like to think that Keith will play better as the season goes on. We did a quick study and compared Keith's 3 games last year in the same 3-game stretch versus Stanford, SC, and Oregon to his numbers this year. They're very comparable, so I'm not as nearly as just concerned that the sky is falling on number 17. I think he's going to be okay the second half of the season. And I'm probably the most thing I've been impressed with this team through the first half of the season is their resolve. This is a tough-minded group, a gritty group. We understand where we're at, and we're going to go to work tomorrow, and we're going to practice our tails off, and we're going to come out and play a good football game on Saturday.
Steve, what first half grade would you assign to defense and why?
I don't know. We don't assign grades. I think we're playing pretty good. I think that we're finding our niches of where our strengths are and where there's some areas that need to be improved. I think Desmond Trufant is having an all-conference season at the corner spot. I think that we're finding maybe a second corner here in Marcus Peters that can also play some real good man-to-man coverage. I think we've got some young linebackers that improve every week in Feeney, John Timu, Thomas Tatogi, Shaq Thompson. I think that they're showing just improvement week in and week out. We're getting steady play out of Talia Crichton and Andrew Hudson. We're getting good play out of Sean Parker and Danny Shelton, play of which I think can improve and get better. I think both those guys can be all-conference type players, and so I think there's room for growth for them. And I think we're understanding the role that Josh Shirley can have on this defense as a pass rusher. So with all that, I still think our best days are ahead of us as a defense because of our youth, but we're rapidly getting better.
So how does Josh Shirley's role change from last year to this year now?
Well, we're just a bit different, and a lot of it is based on the teams we're playing and their strengths and their ability to run the football. We faced 3 teams that really dedicated themselves to run the ball the last 3 weeks. And Josh's strength is he's a really good pass rusher in obvious passing situations. And so when we've been able to spot him and then put him in those instances, if you look at the last 3 games, he's made 2 really game-changing plays with the sack fumble against Stanford 3 weeks ago, and then the sack the other night on Barkley there in a critical 3rd down situation. So that's going to be his role for a little while, and which is okay because he's making plays for us when he's put in those situations.
Arizona and Oregon's offense are maybe just categorized as similar, but on film, are they real similar? I guess there's something to
I think the biggest similarity is the tempo in which they operate. They both operate at extremely high tempos. Arizona really, I think the goal is to run about 100 plays a game. which if you look at it, last week SC ran 60 plays, we ran 58. So imagine playing 2 games is what it's like when you play Arizona. You know, that they've got a tremendous running back in Kadeem Carey, and they've got 2 big wide receivers on the outside that they try to get the ball to in one-on-one situations. I think that I don't know if they're as multiple as Oregon, but they might even be faster in how many reps they try to get within a game. I mean, they're going to repeat calls. They're going to really try to go as fast as they can go.
Is there something that Coach Rodriguez is doing there that maybe is noticeably different than what he did at Michigan or West Virginia?
The defense is different from what they did at Michigan. It's similar to what they did at West Virginia with the 3-3-5 stack and the multitude of defensive backs on the field. I mean, they're arguably playing with 6 DBs on the field now with the move of Marquise Flowers to linebacker. So that's a bit different from what he did when he was at Michigan. Offensively, it's all pretty similar. You know, they've got a good quarterback in Matt Scott who fits perfectly in their system with his ability with his quick release to get the ball out on the perimeter, his running ability, and they've got a back in Kadeem Carey who is a multiple guy, a guy who can run the ball inside and on the perimeter as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. He causes a great deal of problems.
What are some of the difficulties that the 3-3-5 presents compared to what you're playing for the first time?
I think that just from an identification standpoint, you know, that you can't look at jersey numbers when you play these guys and say he's a linebacker, he's a DB, he's a DN. They move guys around, and so we have to block the look and not the number, which is going to be one of the keys for us as we start in our preparation process.
Is that similar to what Nebraska ran against you?
No, not. Nebraska was more of a 4-2-5.
So is it fair to compare the offensive line's progress from Oregon to USC in terms of things that they're doing on the field?
Sure, it's fair. You know that they got posed a great challenge last week with an excellent defensive line in SC. Struggled at times, but also did some decent things at times as well. You know, that's going to come with the territory, with some youth, and when you go against good teams.
And looking back on the film, how successful was the switch at halftime of the right side of the line?
Wasn't highly successful early on in the third quarter. We moved a toe inside. He got beat the first 2 snaps in the third quarter. But then I thought he settled in a little bit more later in the half. And as he settled in, I thought Mike Crisp struggled a little bit as well with Breslin. So, you know, when you add up, you know, when they had 90 or 94 on the right guard and 91 on the right tackle, they posed some real challenges for us on the right side of the line, which we made some plays, but also got beat on some opportunities.
Do you think that's as difficult a defensive line as you're going to face the rest of the year?
I don't know. I haven't looked at all the teams, but I do know, you know, when you look at 4 of our last 5 games, we've played some really good fronts. And so I'm trying to hold judgment on these young guys about their potential and their capabilities down the road, because you look at LSU, you look at Stanford, you look at Oregon, you look at USC, those are pretty good fronts. So, you know, 3 of those teams are in the top 10 in the BCS, and the other one probably should be if they hadn't gotten a bad call at the end of the game against Notre Dame.
Steve, your study of Price with Stanford, Oregon, USC, maybe beyond the numbers, what did you find? Or even with the numbers?
Well, I think what's consistent in the numbers is they got pressure on Keith. You know, and all 3 of those teams did a good job of pressuring us, and pressured Keith and got him out of his comfort zone, and then the score got away from us in a couple of those other games. That made it difficult on Keith. So, you know, I believe in our system. I believe in our coaches. I believe in Keith Price, and we'll be okay. We'll play pretty well Saturday.
Anything else from anybody? All right, we hope to have a couple players here. We'll see.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.